Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Idiots in the I-Form podcast, a show where four idiot friends get together and talk about football. Without further ado, let's begin the episode.
All right, episode 2. Week 1 is over. A lot of
Chaos
surprising
ensued.
things happened.
And some of our predictions looking really bad early already.
Oh yeah,
Especially with my
Will's not
Giants
here
prediction.
to eat his words about the Bears either. So
No, he
Ugh.
cannot defend himself.
Rats.
all right, so
Yeah.
the plan is
What?
go over each of the games for week 1, and then at the end we'll give our predictions for week 2.
Sounds good to me. Let's get this party started.
Should we start with where the week started on Thursday night with the Chiefs and
Sure.
Lions?
Yes. That I saw coming a mile away. I wasn't sure how it was going to come, but it came.
I thought the Chiefs wouldn't suffer as much without Travis Kelce as they did. Their receivers really did not do a whole lot that game, and they were
really
kind of
did.
struggling.
Like literally none of the receivers broke 100 yards. Like the closest one was Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He had like 2 receptions for 48 yards.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I'm not
the
really
best outing.
surprised.
Yeah,
I
neither
kind
am
of figured that the Lions would. I figured it would be like a 50-50 chance of whoever wins, because the Chiefs are still good, but they're just not. They're not that powerhouse without Kelsey, and they didn't have Chris Jones either.
Another thing for that is, though, the Lions, I don't believe the Lions really turned the ball over at all that game, and the Chiefs, I believe, did it twice. One with the interception from Mahomes, and another one was a fumble that the Lions recovered.
Yes, that is accurate.
Those kind of mistakes are gonna kill you. And
oh yeah,
let's just get over the elephant in the room here. Darius Toney, who I'm pretty sure
Kadarius Toney, a cardboard box could catch more than Kadarius Toney.
he had those yellow gloves because that man had Butterfinger hands.
Amen. My pet cat, she would probably be a better receiver than Tony. Better than
Dude,
him.
if I'm not 100% sure on this, I'll have to look it up after this, but I'm pretty sure he was one of the most targeted for the night for Patrick Mahomes.
I think he was.
With only 5 targets, he caught 1 for 1 yard.
Yep.
One of those ended up being a pick 6, as we know.
Yep.
And the others just were dropped in the open field. I will give him one because I think it was in midfield that he crossed over somebody else from the Chiefs. I can't remember who, but the ball kind of I think it might have hit the person in front of him and kind of wobbled a bit after that. So that one I can kind of forgive, but everything else, nah, you just can't catch a ball.
The pick 6 one is gonna go down as one of, if not the worst, play by a receiver this season. In game 1, there's no it's gonna be up there at the end of the season. People are still gonna remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to mention the fact that this man was saying stuff about how the Giants traded him, I think, over the offseason on Twitter and everything. And after that, this man deleted his account because he was getting dragged.
Oh my gosh, yes. And
rightfully so.
And I use Twitter, so I saw the chaos ensue in regards to him. Like he was talking some trash, how they're going to beat the Lions and whatnot. And when he caught only that one ball and went catch us the rest of the game, the memes. Oh my gosh.
And just as something for down the line here, after the game with the Cowboys and Giants, we'll get to that later. But after that, he was still talking trash about the Giants on, I think it was Instagram. He made posts and stuff about it. Dude, you need to know when to shut up.
Yeah, you're not in any room to speak.
You have no room to talk, my friend. Like, why don't you work on catching a ball like most college? No, better yet, most high school players would know by now.
Yeah.
So,
That pick that the Giants got in exchange for Tony that they turned into Darren Waller, the Giants did so good with that whole
Mhm.
situation.
they sure did.
Uh,
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
oh, before I forget too, we forgot to mention at the start, we're down one member tonight. Will
Yes.
is out of town for work, so it's just the three of us.
Will has
So,
died.
Paulo.
But no
But
word if he'll be back next week or not. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway,
Yep.
with
uh,
that being said,
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the last bit of that game from Thursday night, when the Chiefs decided to go for it on, I think it was 4th and 25.
yeah, it wasn't like in their own.
It was on their own
The
30.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, I don't know
Uh,
what they were
well,
thinking.
what
Like,
baffles me, I think this might just be like a coaching decision here that was bad. They were on their own 30, 4th and 25. There was over 2 minutes left in the game because they still had the 2-minute warning after.
mhm.
All three of their timeouts. I feel like if they would have punted the ball instead, they could have pinned the Lions. And the Lions in that game in the second half only had 2 field goals, 6 points across the two
Yeah, like
quarters.
yeah, the Chiefs' defense
Regardless
was.
of points, though, the Lions could have the Lions were having some success on the ground, so they really could have ran out the clock, even with the 2-minute warning and all the timeouts. Like Montgomery and Gibbs were like picking up first downs, so like maybe they just didn't want to get the ball back with
That's
like
true.
30
But
seconds left.
after your receivers have been dropping passes all night, is it really the smartest thing to go for it on 4th and 25?
No.
I mean, no, not really, but it looks like just two not great options.
Yeah, like the Chiefs' defense was holding them pretty well all night long,
Yeah.
especially in the fourth quarter. And it's like, what happened? Did you lose faith in your defense all of a sudden?
I
Why would
don't
you?
I don't know what
I don't know.
the plan was there, but it just didn't seem like a smart decision to me.
No,
I, I
definitely
think
not.
I think they should have punted the ball and trusted your defense to hold the Lions as they were for the majority of the second half, and then try to march down the field again because that was the 25 yards was a drive killer.
I totally agree. Oh no, bad decision, and it cost the Chiefs dearly.
Yeah,
Although, let's be honest, Tony kind of cost the Chiefs dearly with his
I
inability to catch balls. So,
uh,
Yeah, it's a different game if Kelsey had played.
I do think
oh,
it would have
definitely.
been a different game. I think the Lions would have had to step up a little more. The Lions probably would have lost that if Kelsey was
Yeah,
in, but I
I
don't think it would
agree.
have been
Just
by
based on what
much.
we saw, like the Lions could have stepped up and still made it like a close game, and maybe they still could have won, but just based on like what we saw, like if Kelsey was in, that's a different game. Chiefs probably win.
Yeah.
But that's not like a knock against the Lions. I've seen a bunch of people saying that that's like an
No,
asterisk win
that's not
against the
taking
Chiefs for
anything
the
away from the
Lions, but
Lions, in my opinion. It's
yeah,
one person
it is
can
what it is.
help, but they're not going to be the team.
Yeah.
Oh no, definitely not. But it was a pretty impressive win for the Lions considering their history and playing in Super Bowl winning
Yeah,
teams.
Jared Goff played really well. I'm I'm surprised at how much he is. I guess you could say improved in the past couple of years because he
Yeah.
seems like a much better quarterback. The run game for Detroit was pretty good, even though I think Montgomery got the majority of the carries.
It
Yeah.
was, and yeah, he did. Montgomery did more and better than I thought he would, and then Gibbs also looked good for getting less carries. Like he still
Yeah,
looked really
there
good.
there was I can't remember when exactly it was, but there was one play that Gibbs took. Uh, he took off and shook off like two or three defenders before breaking free and got I think first down plus like 4 or 5 yards or something like that. still, like, none of that should be taken away from the Lions. It shouldn't be like, oh, they didn't have Kelsey, they didn't have Jones. Like, a win is a win.
It's like they say, you play the people that are in front of you. Like you can only control what you can control,
You're,
so it shouldn't be counted against you just because
and your
something out of
team
your
is
control
only as
happens.
strong as the weakest link, and we all know who the weakest link was.
Oh yeah, definitely. One thing to add to, especially with it being the first week of the NFL season, is that a lot of starters never either did or played very little. Let me rephrase that. They either played very little in preseason or they didn't play at all. So a lot of
Yeah.
rust probably occurred with all 32 teams in the NFL. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of these teams that played bad, which we'll get into later, will start playing good again. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
in this case, I would say the Chiefs, they didn't play necessarily terrible, but they all the missed opportunities, mostly with our boy Tony here. They probably they could have dominated the Lions the way they were playing that night, but you never know.
If the
So all in all,
receivers held onto the ball more, they won the game easy. Especially
yeah,
if it was,
definitely,
if Tony specifically was able to catch more of the balls that went his way, it's a different game.
definitely. But in regards to the Lions, especially on defense, I was pretty impressed with them because I mean they've been terrible on defense for the last several years,
Yeah.
and for them to shut down Patrick Mahomes and company, that's still pretty impressive, whether they have Kelsey or not.
Yeah,
So
they really started to improve the defense a little, like, toward the end of last year, like the last quarter of the season.
yeah,
And with
Yep.
the addition of Gardner Johnson, who made a pretty decent impact, a few good tackles, he almost had an interception if it didn't fly through his hands.
yeah,
But
I agree.
let's see, should we
Alrighty,
move on to the next game?
sure.
Sure.
I believe the next in the line is Falcons Panthers, the
Hmm.
debut of Bryce Young.
Oh, I'll have fun with this one. All right, so as I said before, I use Twitter, and there was this one tweet I made in regards to Bryce Young of the Panthers. This was just trash talk. I didn't mean anything of it, but I jokingly said that Bryce Young wasn't going to be the Carolina Panthers' savior. Realistically, I think maybe down the road if they fix their O line and get him better receivers, but I got I got all kinds of crap from Panther fans on Twitter saying I don't know anything or I'm stupid or something like that. Well, they haven't
He
said a
did
word
not do
since
great.
exactly. Like
He didn't
looking
do
at his
great,
stat,
but yeah.
like looking at his stats, he attempted 38 passes, completed 20 for 146 yards, one touchdown, and two picks. One wait no, yeah, two picks and took two sacks. But that's of course with a bad O line. So
Yes, but one thing to note about those two picks, I believe they were both in Panthers territory.
yes, both of them in Panthers
So
territory.
those
So
two
And
picks,
both by Jesse Bates.
yep, those two picks were very close to the goal line, so the Falcons didn't have to do a whole lot.
mm-mm. So and like I said, I'm kind of like just targeting Panther fans here for a second because Panther fans are talking so much trash and they haven't spoken a word since they took a
I
pretty embarrassing L to the Falcons of all
I
teams.
think he's gonna do better, but he needs his receivers in. Because if I remember correctly, Thielen's gone for now, and so is DJ Shark. They're both
I
out.
think
Well,
Thielen is. I don't think Thielen's injury was like much of anything, because didn't he? Was he injured in the game, or was that before the game
But it
happened?
was like
Like in.
a week
I
or
think it was
so
like
ago.
I
yeah,
think he
before the
played though.
game.
He didn't he play?
Yeah, he had two receptions for 12 yards, but that's about
Ah,
it.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, he might not be 100%, but he's still gonna be on
yeah.
the field and all that.
But it's different when he's 100% compared to coming back off an injury where he might not be at 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
But
think
one thing, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I think that once he gets his receivers back, like his main receivers, I think he'll do a little better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he better hope so because I recently learned earlier this afternoon that the Panthers starting right tackle is out for the season.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
I think since the Saints played the Panthers this coming Monday night, which we'll get on to later on, they might be feasting that night.
Yeah, I think the Saints defensive line's going to eat him alive.
Yeah. So, but in regards to the Falcons, honestly, their run game is legit. Like Bijan Robinson had 10 carries
I
for yeah, 10
I just
carries for
want to say
56
one thing
yards.
about Bijan Robinson. The first touchdown
Yep.
he got, my God, it was a quick pass out to the right side of the field, just past like I think the right hash mark,
Yes, that's
and
correct.
he grabbed the ball, looks to his left, and sees a defender barreling down the field toward him. Jumps back, and that guy hit the dirt. He took that man's soul with that.
He went to the east, to the west, back to the east, back to the west. If anyone knows
I,
Chiseled Adonis.
I, and after that, he proceeds to like take off running forward, only to drag two more defenders with him, shake them off, and get into the end zone.
Yeah, that man's a beast. Like I was impressed with him in the highlights I saw.
Atlanta, he should
And
be your starter.
yes.
He will be eventually, I'm sure.
And then
I don't know.
Tyler Algier was also pretty impressive. He had the most touchdowns in that game. He had 15 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like he actually did really well. I was kind of surprised because I thought Bijan Robinson would be the main back, but apparently
Yeah.
he just overtook him. So that was pretty impressive on his
They
part.
also I've noticed that the Falcons did not pass a whole lot in that game. Ritter
They
was
did not.
15 out of
I
18 for
mean, why
115.
would you when you've got the best running back room in the NFC South? Like, there's no point.
Yeah.
Like, if you can run it, then just run it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference though between Young and Ritter there is Ritter is 15 of 18 for 115. And Bryce Young was 20 of 38 for not much more.
Yeah, he like Bryce Young barely surpassed Desmond Ritter. But Desmond Ritter didn't really have to do much because he
No.
had Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. They're just tearing up the field in
And
the run
also,
game.
as we
So
mentioned before, those two interceptions were already in Panthers territory, so they didn't have to go far.
right. So like the Falcons pretty much all around dominated the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I'm taking it for a grain of salt because I mean it's the Falcons. They haven't been very good, and it's against the Panthers, who are also not very good. So what would they really be like against a good
Yeah,
team?
we need to see
That
more before we
Yeah.
can make an
exactly.
accurate prediction for how they're gonna be.
Yeah.
I was impressed with how good Miles Sanders looked. Like, they gave him a good amount of carries, and he got like a pretty decent amount of yards. I was thinking that they were gonna shut him down just because of how bad the O line is in Carolina, but I mean, he did his job.
Yeah, like 18 for 72. That's not bad at all. And
Yeah.
he could have done better, but of course, who can run behind that old line all the time?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing all he can.
Yeah, especially with now that your right tackle is out for the season, you're gonna be with a backup right tackle, and oof, that's gonna be a nightmare for him.
Yeah. Just move the center over to right tackle and sign Ezekiel Elliott to center.
Right.
All your problems are solved.
There you go.
Shall we move on to the next one?
Sure. What do you
Texans
got?
and Ravens.
Texans and Ravens.
Another rookie quarterback debut for CJ Stroud,
Yes.
who I
I
believe personally did better than Young, even though he didn't score any touchdowns. He completed more passes, but he also made more, only I think 6. But he had 242 yards, which is a
that's
significant
not
amount
bad.
more.
It's really not bad at all.
Yeah.
Even though despite the one fumble he had, which every rookie quarterback's going to fumble, especially if you're not paying attention, but
Yeah,
but still, those stats are not bad at all. Like he could probably do pretty well in the league with those stats, but he's gotta hope
yeah.
that his receivers are on
He
point and his O line protects him.
I think that as the season goes on, the Texans will get better with that. It's just week one, like we said. There's still some
Yeah.
kinks to work out. But for his debut, it's not terrible. He didn't throw any
Mm-mm.
interceptions. He didn't throw
Yeah.
any touchdowns either. But
I mean, yeah. But I mean, it's pretty decent, especially considering they couldn't get the run game going the whole time. Like Damian Pierce didn't do all that much in the game. Like it was basically on Bryce Young to like do what he could that game.
yep,
I mean, not
Yeah.
Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Oh, yeah. We know what you meant.
Yeah.
and and basing off these stats, it was a pretty defensive game, especially in terms of turnovers.
yeah,
Like the ball, even though Houston didn't win the turnover battle, um, Baltimore's defense did enough to just manhandle Houston all the way through. But the Ravens' offense, oof, they were not looking pretty
yeah.
that day, even with Lamar
Lamar didn't
Jackson.
look great in my opinion.
He did not.
No, yeah, but Lamar's coming off an injury. Odell's coming off an injury. Like Mark Andrews
True.
is still injured. Like Zay Flowers looked pretty decent in
Yeah,
He did,
his
yeah.
9 receptions
catches.
for 78 yards.
Yeah.
The sad thing for the Baltimore Ravens is they lost J.K. Dobbins for the season, which really
Yeah,
sucks.
Yeah.
That's a killer for them. I mean, they better hope that Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Zay Flowers can pick up the pace in his stead because
I
not
feel like
pretty.
they'll be all right because Gus Edwards and Justice Hill didn't look too bad yesterday either, or Sunday, not yesterday.
That's
yeah.
true.
I will say the Texans' defense did look pretty good from what I saw, but
Yeah,
the same can be said for the Ravens' defense, holding them to 9 points, nothing but straight field goals.
yeah. It
I
was
think it is
bas-
impressive that just like the dual threat like nature of Lamar like didn't like I mean he was able to run some, but it wasn't like
He
crazy run game for
he
him.
ran for 38 yards, which was the most
Yeah,
on the
like
team.
that's like really low per Lamar standards. Like
Yeah,
Lamar has had like 100-yard games against teams before.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he wasn't himself that day. But again, it's week one. There's probably no need to overreact over it.
I
I'm
didn't
sure
even
he'll
see
bounce back
this.
next week.
I didn't even see this earlier. Lamar Jackson fumbled twice too.
Yeah, you
Yes.
didn't see that?
No, I did not. I saw
I
the
Yeah,
saw
the
that
interceptions,
highlights.
because
but I
I
did not see the fumbles.
Ooh,
yeah, I saw
yeah.
the fumbles on my fantasy like on the live thing and I was like,
Oh.
great.
You have Lamar Jackson on
Yikes!
fantasy?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, ouch.
I want to look here and see. Uh, they have a stat for sacks allowed. Houston allowed 5, Baltimore allowed 4. Still not great for
Mm-mm.
either team's O line,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, they gotta shake off a lot of rust if they're gonna do well this NFL season. But
yeah.
if yeah,
The big thing for the Texans is they got to find a way to get into the end zone. They're not going to win just with field
oh
goals.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, if they pick up the run game, then maybe they can get Damian Pierce to pound in some touchdowns, but
Maybe.
yeah, Texans and Baltimore, like my main takeaway from that game is that both of these teams looked like they haven't reached their potential yet,
Yep.
that they will have in a few more weeks.
they probably just need more time to like figure things out and gel and then get it to a groove. I mean, that's how the NFL works. Is if you even have a one bad week one game, you'll either find yourself in a groove or you find yourself in a losing streak.
Yeah.
So it's one or the
Yeah.
other.
Speaking of bad week ones, oh boy,
Oh Lord.
the Bengals and the Browns.
I wasn't
Woo!
sure who you were gonna say because there's a lot of bad week ones that happened
Well,
this week.
considering that this was the worst performance of Joe Burrow's career, I'd say this one's one of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
I just
he
he
struggled
looked
hard,
terrible.
but like we said, it's week one. They got to shake off some rust. I think Joe Burrow specifically has to shake off more than the others because of that injury. He didn't get to go through a lot of training camp. He didn't get to play
Yep,
in
no
any of the
preseason.
preseason games. This is really his first time back, so he's got to
Yeah.
try and get everything going again.
It's pretty bad that Deshaun Watson of all people outperformed him, but even he wasn't all that great. Like
No, no,
his stats are like 16 of 29, 154 yards, one touchdown, but one interception, took 3 sacks. That's not great. That's just
yeah,
barely above what CJ Stroud got. Well,
yeah.
actually below that, excuse me. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Which
not pretty.
what is odd to me is the fact that Cincinnati only allowed 2 sacks, which with how
That's
the
pretty
Browns are
impressive.
set up on defense, maybe Cincinnati is finally making some progress on that O line.
I
I
don't
didn't.
know, cause like they might have only gotten 2 sacks, but I feel like that's just because Burrow was getting rid of the ball. Like a lot of incompletions, a lot of just having to throw it away.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish I could have watched that game just to get a better perspective of their O line, but
yeah.
obviously
There's a
me
lot
and
of
Jose,
games. There was a lot of games me and you couldn't watch, but we'll get into that reason later.
yeah.
I've
So
seen people counting out the Bengals already. Like just like last year, people are
no,
counting out the
Y'all,
Bengals like they're not gonna be a Super Bowl threat this year, but it's the
w-
same as last year.
we
He
shouldn't be
had an
counting
injury, he
anybody out
missed
on
all
week
this
one.
time. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
especially the
no.
Bengals. Especially the Bengals.
The Bengals are gonna be fine. They just had a really bad first week. I'm sure they'll find their groove eventually.
Everybody has bad days, but this is one of the worst ones. Um,
Yeah,
I think both of
Yeah.
these teams are going to get better. Uh, Watson still, I guess, has to like find his groove with this new team because he didn't really
yeah.
find it last year. So
He hardly played last year because of that 11-game suspension
yeah,
from the whole uh what that all you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, that
yeah,
crap that he got into last year. So
I
yeah,
fully
massages.
expect the Browns to get like a little better this season and be
Yeah,
like pretty decent because like I feel like Watson like will find his groove and be like decent. Like maybe not the quarterback he was like 3 years ago, but like at least halfway there. Like he's not gonna
yeah,
be nearly as bad as he was last year.
yeah, and the
yeah.
Bengals, they'll be fine once they find their groove again. They'll It'll take them maybe a week or two, and they'll be back in there. My
I
one
would
thing I
say
have to say though, Jamar
what?
Chase,
Ooh, yeah.
you're my boy. You're from LSU. My guy, you need to
Yeah,
learn to
calm
shut up.
down.
You need to learn
Yeah.
to shut up. It's the same thing that happened against the Chiefs last year. Y'all was talking about, oh, it's Burrowhead Stadium and stuff like that, and you lost. You went in here,
hmm
called the Browns elves, and you lost. Stop it.
Yeah.
I tell you,
Yeah.
anytime these NFL players talk trash, it always backfires. Like it's a typical trend. So you would think they learned their lesson not to talk trash, and they don't.
Pride
Yeah.
But
comes
Take
speaking,
before the
Eli
fall.
Apple for an example.
oh, definitely that one I will never stop laughing about.
As they say,
But
pride goes before the fall.
that's
Yeah.
right. And speaking of my boys, uh, there's a former Ole Miss Rebel, Elijah Moore, who played very well in my opinion. He had 3 receptions for 43 yards, which I was a little shocked because he hasn't been producing much. And he also ran for 2 carries for 19 yards, which I would say not a bad day for a first day with the Browns because he was with the Jets for the last 2 or 3 seasons and didn't
Yeah,
do squat with them.
not
So,
bad.
but yeah, so I'm kind of gonna keep my eye on him because I have him on fantasy, and he actually bailed me out on fantasy this week, surprisingly. So, and as a as a diehard Ole Miss fan myself, of course, I'll be hoping he does well.
Yeah.
So,
Should
but
we
I'm not gonna go as far as say he's gonna be like a top 10 receiver. He's not quite there yet. So,
Oh, you saw the Bengals? It was just today or yesterday that they released Lyle Collins, who
Yeah, I
was the
saw
right
that.
tackle on the
I
Bengals.
did,
I
I
don't know
Um,
did,
how I
yes.
feel about that.
I
Wasn't
think
he?
I'm feeling like he needs to go to Carolina right now. Like if
Uh,
Carolina's right tackle's out, I feel like they need to get on the phone.
Yeah, prime spot just opened.
Yeah, that is true.
But
Anyway,
let's move on to the next one. We have Jaguars and Colts. Surprising, to be sure.
yeah,
I don't think
this
anybody
one was
expected the
shocking.
Colts to do as well as they did.
No, the Colts look pretty decent. And I know like it's the Colts versus the Jaguars, and that's always a close game, no matter how trash one team is. Um, but yeah, like
Yeah,
the Colts, Anthony Richardson looked pretty decent as well.
yeah. I was a little shocked by that because we've all seen Anthony Richardson play for Florida, and honestly, I didn't think he looked that good in Florida. But who knows? Maybe he might have found his groove with Indianapolis. But of course, fingers crossed. It's only week one. We don't want
Yeah.
to go crazy or jump to
It could have
conclusions or
also
anything
been
like
in
that.
Florida, just that he didn't have great people around him. And that when
True.
you get in the NFL and you have better caliber players around you, it helps.
Yeah, like the Indianapolis's receivers. I think their best receiver is Michael Pittman. I'm not
I'm
too certain.
I would agree. I would say their best receiver is Michael Pittman, but Michael Pittman's a pretty good receiver. Like,
Yeah, he finished the
Yeah,
day with 8 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown.
yeah.
yeah,
Not too
So
shabby.
if he can establish that kind of a connection with him, then I think the Colts are going to be pretty good in terms of offense.
they
And
definitely have
Anthony,
that potential.
I also
oh,
think they
definitely.
will be much better once their running back comes back after
Yeah,
that
Jonathan
4
Yeah,
Taylor will
game.
be
Jonathan
back
Taylor.
week 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Anthony Richardson, he even ran 10 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown.
yeah.
So he can also
It's not terrible.
not terrible at all. So if he keeps this up, who knows? He might be the next Lamar Jackson. Hopefully he's not injury prone. But
Yeah,
again, I don't want to
I
go there quite yet.
I do think though, like one of the main reasons that the Jaguars won this is the receivers are just better. Calvin Ridley,
Yeah,
8 for 101 and a touchdown.
Woo.
A comeback if I've ever seen one after not playing for
Yeah.
Definitely.
God knows how long.
and just think about week 1. Christian Kirk had his best year of his career last year with Trevor Lawrence, and Christian Kirk only had like 7 yards this game. Like when he gets both of those
Yeah.
guys involved, then this is going to be a dangerous team.
Oh,
He had
definitely.
9, Paulo. This is what
9
it says
yards.
here. Yeah,
Okay.
1 for
He was
9.
close.
Zay Jones
Yeah,
didn't do bad either. 5 receptions
Yeah.
for 55 and a touchdown. That
The
touchdown catch
touchdown
I
he
did
caught
see.
was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
And then
thing
you got
I have to point out here in regards to the Jaguars, I don't know what they were doing, but there was a point during the game where the ball was on the ground and the play had not been blown dead yet, and the
Mm.
Jaguars players were kind of standing around, so a Colts
Oh my
player
gosh.
scooped it up and took off.
Yeah. It was the
I
fumble
saw
that
that.
looked like it could have maybe possibly been an incomplete pass, but it was a
Yeah.
fumble.
You, regardless of how it is, until that whistle is blown, the play is dead. You act like it's still going. You don't stand
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of this one clip I saw on, I think it was on either Twitter or YouTube, where this is like a Saints versus Rams from like decades ago, and this very exact thing happened, but on kickoff. The guys thought he called a fair catch, but instead he tricked them and he just ran by, and all the Saints players were going on the sideline thinking it was a fair catch and they would be down on like the 20-yard line, something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of
Yeah.
reminded me of that, but
Those
in a different
mistakes will
scenario.
come back to bite you.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
definitely.
lucky it didn't cost them this game.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway,
The Colts show
I think
promise for
this-
the rest of the year, and the Jaguars, with their addition of new receivers, are looking a little better.
Yeah.
oh, definitely.
If the Colts keep this up, and if Houston like gets a little better like we're expecting them to, this could be a very competitive division.
True.
Definitely. They might give the Jaguars a run for their money if they play like that all season.
Yeah.
With Tennessee maybe following right behind them after how they played against the Saints, which we'll get into in a moment.
Next up, we have Buccaneers and Vikings. I don't think
This
any of
one-
us expected the Buccaneers to be as good as they were.
Yeah, I was gonna say
especially
this
Baker
was
Mayfield.
yeah, this one was a surprise for me. Like, who'd have thought of all quarterbacks and of all teams to take down the Vikings? And
I'm
the
genuinely impressed with how Baker Mayfield did after hearing some of the things he was doing during that game. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it was actually only a couple hours ago that I saw it. Uh, he was telling some of the guys on the sidelines if they line up a certain way, he knew what kind of scheme they were running. He was making
hmm,
adjustments and stuff on the field based on that, and it was working. I don't think I've ever like heard anything about him doing stuff like that before on the field. But whatever he was
that's
doing, it was working.
that's surprising. Maybe he's finally learning to adjust. But it's kind of funny how he's finally learning to pick that up with the Buccaneers of all teams. Like,
Yeah,
his last year on offense, obviously they were not that good, as were anyone else in the NFC South.
I
But
I do have a concern with it though, and that is that Baker Mayfield kind of has a cycle, and right
oh
now
yeah,
I think when we're in the beginning stages of that cycle, where he starts pretty good, he has his moments of like showing that he can be one of the better quarterbacks, and then he starts to go down before he comes back up again.
yeah, that is true. It's like he goes like it goes in a circle. Like, he starts good, and then something goes wrong, and everything goes horribly wrong. Then he gets back on a hot streak. It just goes circles and
It's a
circles all
circle,
the way
but
through.
not a real circle, more like a freaky circle.
Right. So it's just funny how the Buccaneers won this game, and yet stat wise, if you look at the Minnesota Vikings stats, you're like, how in the world did they
Yeah,
lose this game? Like, Kirk Cousins was 33 of 44, 344 yards, two touchdowns, granted one pick, but that's still not bad. And then Justin Jefferson, my boy on one of my fantasy teams, he had 9 receptions for 150 yards. Holy crap! Like,
that's my
they
boy.
all,
That's my boy
yeah.
from LSU.
There you go. And like they were, that was a little shocking how they put up the most stats, and yet they still lost the game. It's
Yeah,
like, that must be the most Minnesota Viking thing to ever happen. Uh,
just I think it all came down to defense.
I think so too. Like, the Bucks defense, I think, did just enough. They forced two fumbles and recovered both of them. So I think those turnovers were the key thing, because the Buccaneers, they didn't have any fumbles. Um, Yeah, they didn't have any fumbles at all, and they still won the game. So I think it just came down to turnovers, who was going to commit the most turnovers, and the Vikings did just that.
Yeah, looking at these stats, you're right. Even receiving, their highest was Mike Evans at 6 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. The
Yeah,
run game was let me see here,
yeah.
wasn't
Tampa
a
Bay's
whole
run
lot
game.
better.
Yeah, they've never had a really good running game. They might have some days where are good, but they've mostly had a lot of bad days. They just never had a consistent good runner.
Yeah,
I think maybe their best running back, which is no longer on the Bucks team, was Leonard Fournette, but
mhm.
that's about it.
And he was starting
So,
to like fall off a little bit
regress.
in terms of how he was performing.
Yeah, because he was with the Jaguars, and he was doing really well with the Jaguars at the time, and obviously the rest is history.
Yep,
So,
Paulo's been awful quiet.
yes, he has. Paulo, you still there?
He's probably eating Chick-fil-A again. I swear.
That man is Chick-fil-A. Like, and he doesn't even bother to ask either one of us if we want Chick-fil-A. Like, I could ask for him for a spicy chicken
You gonna
sandwich right
drive an
now. Come
hour
on.
back over here to come get it?
Oh yeah.
Uh, but I think both of these teams are gonna do well, but the Vikings defense has to tighten up.
Yeah, definitely.
They've
And I
gotta
think
they've gotta get better.
yeah, and I think in our previous podcast we kind of touched up on how the Vikings defense regressed,
Yeah.
and we thought that would be a concern of theirs, and guess what? It was indeed a concern.
Hmm.
So We'll see how they play out the rest of the season, of course.
Yeah. And now we come
Anyway,
to the reason you and I were not able to watch a lot of those games because we were at this
yes,
game, the Saints
of
and
course.
Titans.
Man,
I
you
I'm
know, tip,
surprised the
typical
defense
Saints.
got better than it was last year somehow.
Yes, like I seriously, in my mind, I thought maybe the Saints defense would take a slight step back, considering what I saw in preseason, and they they were allowing a good bit of rushers to run right through them, but this one they completely shut down. Well, for the most part, they shut down Derrick Henry outside of
Yeah.
maybe one
He
or
didn't
two
have
big
any
carries.
gigantic runs like he usually does. They kept him
Yeah.
pretty short runs.
But the big one that I was really impressed with is they did not allow a single touchdown in this game.
Yeah.
So the score, don't be fooled by the score. There was no touchdown in this game. It was all field goals for the Titans, which
Which
I
is an
hilariously
accomplishment considering that on the other side of the ball you've got DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry.
right. So that's I have to clap my hands for the Saints defense. They held their ground very well, especially like in the beginning of the game. And Jose, you know this, of course, where they fumbled the ball on
Mm-hmm.
the very first kickoff in the first quarter, and they just held their ground and held them to a field goal. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
So
Defenses improved significantly, and one of the things that I believe I said this at the game too. Marcus May, for like a solid
yes,
5, 6, 7 plays, I think it was nothing but the guy calling his name, saying Marcus May on the stop, Marcus May
he
on the
was
tackle. He was
like he was
everywhere.
He was. If this was a thing, I would have given him the defensive player of the game award to him right there and then because he was on
the
fire
The
playing
only thing
defense.
though is I feel like he kind of stepped up his game a bit after he got baptized by Derrick Henry early on. He got knocked
Yes.
to the
He
floor.
got stiff armed at the beginning.
I baptize you in the name of the Father. I baptize in the name of the
The
Son.
first
That
Derrick Henry victim of the season.
Yep.
man.
It, after that, he
Yeah, that
started to go off.
yeah, he was like, I ain't doing that no more.
Yep.
I'm gonna take you down no matter how hard it takes me.
He was all
So,
over the field. I also do want to say with the interceptions that they got, 3 interceptions for Tannehill in this game,
yes.
which for the Saints, I believe last year they had a grand total of 7 on the season. 3 alone in
Hmm.
this game is a big accomplishment for them.
It
Yeah,
is.
it seems like the secondary took it is I think the secondary might be the next ball hawking kind of group that we
Hmm.
finally have. I mean, they've been granted they were around last season, but like you mentioned, they didn't have as many interceptions. But to have 3 of them in one game, that's almost more than half of last season's total.
Yep.
So if they can keep that up, then no one's going to be scoring much on us this
Yeah.
season.
Tannehill, for a lot of the game, too, was either on the run or trying to get the ball out before he got hit.
Yeah,
The pass rush was very good coming from the Saints defensive line.
yeah, and his QBR rating was low. It was like below
Mhm.
20 or something like that. It was terrible.
Yeah, I'm
So
I'm
I
looking
mean,
here to see.
three interceptions, no touchdowns. That'll do it.
that will.
He still threw for 198 yards, but there wasn't a whole lot going on.
No, like the Saints defense just made life miserable for Ryan Tannehill,
Yeah,
and that was great to watch.
yeah.
Now,
They held
meanwhile,
Hopkins to 65 yards. They held
yeah,
Henry to 63, and that's an accomplishment in itself.
agreed. Like all in all, this game really went to the Saints defense because on the Saints offense, Derek Carr had uh attempted 33, completed 23, and had 305 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick, but was sacked 4 times.
Hmm.
The Saints O line better step it up in the next game
Yeah,
because he's not Derek Carr's going to get himself hurt or he's going to see the ground more than or start making inaccurate passes because
yeah.
we cannot have that in the
I
for the rest of the season.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but after the game was over, there were some videos that came out from, I think they were taken on the sideline, but it's Carr specifically wanting a certain type of play called, and the one that was called was the biggest play of the game for the Saints, I think, and it's that shot downfield at Shaheed.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. I think if he had not made that completion, the game would have been much different.
Yeah,
But
that
thank God he
he
was on the
he
money.
himself wanted that. He called specifically
Yes.
for that play, and he goes over to Shaheed and he goes freaking run.
Ye- Yes. I saw that video on Twitter today too. That was hilarious.
That's to Jameis Winston just nodding in the corner.
He's like, yes. But
But
yeah, that
like
was
you said, the O line needs to tighten up because that also affected our run game. Jamal Williams didn't have a whole lot of yards. The
he really
one
didn't.
the biggest play he had was at the end of the game when he ran to the outside on the right.
Oh yeah, and that for the game sealing first down basically.
Yeah. A little
But
scared with that what would have been a fumble, but
one thing for certain, and it was quite noticeable, is that the trio of Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Michael Thomas, they look like to be a deadly trio
yeah.
for the NFL if they continue this pace. Because man, Chris Olave led the team with receptions and yards, 8 for 112,
Yeah.
and then Rashid had 5 for 89, and Michael Thomas had 5 for 61. All fantastic stats, if you ask me.
I
Like,
feel
and you
like
still got Jawan Johnson, and when Jimmy Graham gets out there, you'll have him out there. So you'll also have other like good
oh
targets
yeah,
as well.
yeah. I feel like
definitely,
with Thomas specifically after most of his catches came in like the first couple drives that the Saints had. Uh
yeah,
they were significant catches too. They were not most likely, but mostly for first downs.
yeah,
And
and they were
I think after
big chunk plays.
they were giving Carr time in the pocket. That's why he was making those throws. He was given time to
Exactly.
work. But I think after that, when they started getting to him, Thomas got less involved, so he had to find another person to get it to. I think if they
Yeah.
can give him time in the pocket, I think Thomas might have a breakout year.
Oh, definitely. Like, just give Carr enough time to throw the ball, and we're going to be lighting up opposing defenses all season long. And I'm
I
very
Yeah.
certain of that.
I also have a criticism of how they're using Jamal Williams. The
Yeah,
Lions didn't use him like he wasn't their main rusher, if I remember correctly. He was used more in the passing game. I wish that the Saints would use him similarly with like screen passes or things like that because he can get yards doing that. That's like how he worked a lot of the time last year for the Lions. But just straight rushes up the middle when your O line is not great is it's not going to help him.
Well, I mean, they had to make him do both because Kamara's out. He is the primary rusher. There is no other.
Well,
There
yeah, I get
really
that,
isn't
but like
anyone to.
they hardly ever just passed Williams the ball. It was always a run.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they just
and
got to mix it up a bit.
yeah, and they had Tony Jones Jr. out there a few times, but he only had one carry for 5 yards, and that's nothing. Like, I mean, he's more the bruiser back than Jamal Williams is, honestly. So you could have given him a couple more extra touches than Jamal Williams and used Jamal Williams like in a screen package
I
or
think
outside runs, something like that.
I think when Kamara comes back, Williams will probably get used in the way I'm thinking a little more because Kamara will be
Let's hope
taking
so.
most of the load. But we got to wait, what, 4 games for that?
Two more.
Yeah,
Ah,
too. There's not too much longer.
Another thing about setting up the screen is that you have to have good blockers to set up the screen. And if the O
yeah.
line can't
True.
protect Carr, then good luck setting up a screen.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. Yeah. Good point.
Well, I think that takes care
Anyway,
of that game. Let's see. What is next on this list? 49ers and Steelers. Rough day for
ooh,
Pittsburgh.
This was kind of funny to watch personally because I have two friends who are Steelers fans, and all off season and through the preseason they were saying how much of an improved team they are. They were very excited about so and so players. They think Kenny Pickett was going to take the next step up, and they just laid the biggest goose egg. Well,
Yeah,
take that back, second biggest goose egg of the
it
season so far.
it was bad. It was a massacre. Brock
It
Purdy looks
was.
like he deserves to be the starter in San Francisco. Ayuk,
Yes.
Ayuk went off.
Yeah, Ayuk had a good game.
And Christian McCaffrey, he ran all over them,
Just
like 22 carries,
on
152
all in
yards.
all areas, the 49ers dominated.
Yeah, they look like the team to be in the NFC, but just by that one game. I
Yeah,
mean, there's a reason why they reached what?
I was just gonna say the Steelers, like, pretty much the offense was struggling the whole game, and
Oh,
defense was like the only thing they had going for them, with a couple
yeah.
sacks here and there. But like,
Yeah.
you got to score
TJ Watt
points.
got Purdy like 2 or 3 times, but yeah, I mean, when you're the Steelers offense going against the #1 defense in the NFL, like just good luck. Like
Yeah.
it just wasn't in the cards for them to win that game. It never
Mm-mm.
was.
Yeah, they
It,
just straight up got dominated.
it
I
was
mean,
just a
there's no,
massacre.
yeah. And I expect the Niners to continue that pace, unless for some reason they themselves lay in goose egg, which will be likely this uh it's the NFL. You might think you're the best team in the league, and then you randomly lose to, I don't know, someone as trash as like the Falcons or something like that.
I mean, last year the Eagles did lose to the Saints when we were doing as bad as
Yes,
we were.
right.
Yeah. The
Just a
difference
good
with that
example.
though is that Jalen Hurts wasn't there. We played Gardner Minshew.
Yeah,
Yeah, Hurts
So
was.
if Hurts had been there, then maybe we wouldn't have done that.
uh,
Yeah, Hurts was hurt.
yeah.
Yes.
He was hurt.
But regardless, there's not a whole lot we can say about this. It was
It was just,
just destruction for the Steelers.
Yeah.
yeah,
McCaffrey
not
got the
as
most rushing yards for the week, and then Ayuk was also top 5 for receiving yards this week. So I mean, that's like on the same team. That's all you need to know about what the offense
Pickett,
did.
oh
Kenny
yeah,
Pickett did not do great. He was 31
no,
of 46 for 232. He had one touchdown but two interceptions. It,
You know, I honestly don't think that's as bad as it could have been, just because of the 49ers defense, how good it is. Like that actually, when you just said that, that's about what I would expect out of this game if we didn't know what happened.
yeah,
the
it's
the
true.
run game for the Steelers was pretty much non-existent too. Najee Harris was the leader with 6 carries for 30 yards. It,
That's not
Yeah.
gonna win you ball games.
yeah, and
Then
then
Deontay Johnson's out, got hurt.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's a.
not a lot they can do.
Mm-mm.
It's just domination from the 49ers on that. They're lucky they scored a touchdown. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, but
Next game,
I
which
think that was Fryermuth's only catch too. Was the touchdown for like 3 yards?
yeah, but that's nothing.
Yeah.
but moving on, this game I definitely didn't see coming is the Commanders beating the Cardinals 20-16. I didn't think the Cardinals would put up that much of a fight.
Yeah, I guess the Cardinals are. I guess they really want to prove people wrong because I thought they were supposedly tanking. By the way, everything's gone for them.
Yeah. I think that people's expectations for the Commanders are like warranted. Like the Commanders are going to be a pretty good team, but like week 1, I get why they didn't like crush the Cardinals. Like it's still Sam Howell's first like what is it? It's like 5th or 6th game as the starting QB.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Um like there's still like kind of a lot of new pieces there, or like returning pieces who haven't like played with other people. So
yeah. Like both teams just defensively looked good, but offensively,
they
kind of
they were
iffy.
very like in a lot of these categories, looking at the stats, they're very close. They each lost 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
Average yards per play was 4 for both teams. Rushing yards 96 and 92. They're very close in a lot of areas, but the difference is here: sacks allowed. Washington's O line allowed 6.
Yeah, it's bad.
Arizona's only allowed 3. You got to protect the quarterback.
hmm
Yeah.
Seems like a theme this week has been just bad O-line play for a
Yeah,
majority of NFL teams this week. Wonder how that's going to change coming up in week 2.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that some of these teams can make some adjustments, because if not, they might be doomed.
Yeah.
Because if, like, specifically for the Commanders, if you're doing this against a team like the Cardinals, what's going to happen when you go up against someone like the 49ers or the Cowboys, which you've got to play twice a year?
That's
Yeah,
going to
those
be,
are going to be tough games if they can't tighten up on offense.
yeah, definitely. Ugh. Should be an interesting year for Washington.
Yeah. I feel like their
Yeah.
defense still is pretty decent for the most part, but offense has got to get into gear.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens as the season goes by. Who knows? Maybe they might step it up, but if they don't, then
Yeah.
that's all she wrote for Washington.
Yeah.
The Packers and Bears, good lord, proving that
Packers and
the
Bears was
deed
crazy.
the deed to ownership of the Chicago Bears still lies in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Apparently so. Like even without Aaron Rodgers, like I was not expecting Jordan Love to go out like that. Like I gotta give kudos to him because honestly, I just thought he wasn't gonna be that good. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen him start a few times, even with Aaron Rodgers still at Green Bay, but he did pretty good. Like granted, Green Bay's defense kind of held their ground against Chicago, and Chicago really didn't do anything to
Yeah.
impress anybody.
There
But
was one specific play I saw where as soon as Fields got the ball, he was taking off running because the linemen were already on top of him.
Yeah.
They hit him hard enough to knock out the ball, and I think Green Bay recovered it on that.
I think
yeah,
you're right. Yeah. Green
like
Bay's defense was good enough to stop Justin Fields from doing any of the things that are the upside of Justin Fields,
Yeah.
like running, like moving around and like throwing on the run and stuff like that. They stopped him from doing that, so they kind of just like took away his upside.
No,
yeah,
I
and
want
this
to bring up something. I saw this earlier today, and I want to see what y'all's thoughts are on it. These quarterbacks that come in as rookies and start. I'm wondering. This was on like some sort of clip from some kind of talk show or something I saw earlier today. They were talking about how they feel like some of these rookie quarterbacks coming in and starting right away might be hurting them more than help them, because you look at people like Jordan Love, who sat under Rodgers for years now, and look what he did. And then you look at starts for someone like, say, Joe Burrow, who gets hurt his rookie year, and that injury sticks.
But I wouldn't say that really like it hurt Joe Burrow at the time, but do you feel like he would have been better if he didn't get hurt? He didn't get hurt? Like I feel like his potential is still like where it was.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
last year when he was balling out like mid-season, I didn't feel like he was like suffering from starting when he entered the league.
I feel like some of the quarterbacks that come in and start their rookie season, they do just fine. But some of them, I feel like, might need to sit behind a veteran for a year or two,
yeah,
just so they can observe things, learn the system, stuff like that. Because Jordan Love, if he's what we're going by there, he's done pretty decent doing that.
yeah. And if he continues this pace, the Packers are definitely gonna be back in the running for the NFC North this year.
Yeah.
Because they just look impressive. Like I was kind of blown away by how impressive a win this
Yeah,
was for
and this
them.
is where Will would be eating his words, saying that the Bears
Yes.
were the dark horse for that division.
See,
Yeah.
I still kind of I agreed with Will when he said that, and I still kind of feel like based on the way they looked this week, they probably won't be, but like they definitely have the players to if they just like figure it out, whatever it is, because they definitely have the players to be the dark horse.
Yeah,
It's just
they need to improve in the next
yeah,
few
they just have to
weeks.
play better.
And like we said, it's week 1. Kinks to work out. Everybody's got something they got to work on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe the Bears might find a stride and they go through that, and they just better hope they can beat Green Bay at Green Bay whenever they do
Yeah.
that. So,
I
but
Yeah.
all in all, it looked bad.
yeah, Packers are looking stronger than we originally thought they were.
Yes.
Moving on to the Raiders and Broncos, though, that was an interesting 1 point game. I I didn't expect it to be a 1 point game at 17-16. I honestly thought the
Ye-
Raiders were gonna. Well, I guess I shouldn't say score more on them because the Broncos' defense was one of the better ones last year. Um, but they had a little more success, the Broncos, on offense. Not a whole lot more, but a little.
I thought
Yeah.
Jimmy G and Russ both looked decent. Like Russ didn't look as bad as I expected him to look, and then Jimmy G was about what I expected from
Yeah.
the first game.
I think the difference was Jimmy G had Jacoby Myers, who
Yes.
went
Yes.
off.
Yep.
And
Well, if I can
yeah,
pull
he
up the
did.
stats here, he
Yeah,
had
he went
9
not.
catches for
Yeah.
81 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he got more than Devontae Adams, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And going into this next week, after that concussion he got from the last bit of the game, he's going to be out for a bit. But
Yeah, sadly, which kind of hurts one of my fantasy teams, unfortunately.
yeah, Josh Jacobs did not do great. 19
Yeah, he
carries
No.
for 48 yards. Not the best.
granted he
Again,
was
the
going up.
Broncos defense is really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say that. They've been known to have a good defense. They just never had a good offense to complement it.
Yeah. Jimmy G did look pretty good. He was 20 out of 26 for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, which, like we said,
Yeah,
Broncos had a good defense, so that makes sense.
I will
yeah,
stand by the fact that Jimmy G's way better than people give him credit for. Because I've never heard anyone else be like, oh, Jimmy G's pretty good. Everyone's always like, ah, Jimmy G's not that good. But what has Jimmy G done to prove that he's not that good? Like, he's decent. He's pretty good. He's like middle of the pack at
he
least.
Yeah.
I mean, he's made 2 different Super Bowl trips. Granted, it was with the Niners, but I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's shown a lot of good flashes where he has been very good. I guess maybe it might be because of his injury past lately that maybe that's hindering him from being phenomenal and elite. But he has shown flashes to where he can really be a good quarterback and he can get the job done. So, like,
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing with him is that he's had good moments, but he's also had a lot of bad moments. But again, he's had a pretty injured history as of late. So it's like how much of the injuries have impacted him to the point to where he uh can't perform to his full potential, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see this season.
yeah, for sure. But one thing I
Uh,
want to quickly touch up on is the hilarious kicker drama that the Broncos and Saints had. So we all know that Will Lutz is now with the Broncos, and with Will Lutz's agent was bashing the Saints on making a bad decision because we decided to go with that group kid. I don't remember his name,
Groupie.
first name.
Groupie.
Yeah, Groupie.
Blake Groupie.
Blake Groupie, thank you. And he was bashing the Saints and saying they made a big mistake and that Will Lutz will outperform him. And what does Will Lutz do? He misses, I think, 1 or 2 field goals, including an extra point. That's not the way you want to
Yep.
go.
Like I was
Yeah.
saying when they made that announcement, Lutz at this point is kind of prone to injuries now. after taking a
Yeah.
couple. He last year only made, I think, about 70 something percent of his kicks, and that's not including extra points. He missed even more
And,
extra points too. So
yeah,
at
I
this
got
point, I'd say try it with the new blood.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks like he's starting to go on decline, and that's unfortunate because he was the Saints' most accurate kicker at the time, and I just don't. If he does like this all season long, then the Broncos gonna be screwed.
To be honest, he's
So
not even the only kicker they've got. I feel like they might, if Lutz keeps missing, then they're just gonna stick with McManus and let Lutz go.
why not? I mean, what does Sean Payne have to lose?
Well, I mean, it's a kicker. You just take the better one at the time.
Mhm.
There'll always be more kickers.
Dear Lord, Will just sent an image in the group chat. He's still driving. He's been on the road since 8
Oh,
this morning.
that poor
Yeah.
man.
Well, he said they
Good
were
thing.
delayed. So did they actually leave at 8?
I don't know if it was delayed like before they left or like while they were on the road, but
Hmm.
still. He said they'd supposedly be at the hotel around 9. It's almost 9 now, and
Dang,
he's nowhere
Yeah.
close.
he's gonna be
He can
driving
have
for a
fun with
while.
that.
All right, let's try to move through these last, I think, 5 games quickly because we're already over
Yes.
an hour here. Uh,
Yep.
Chargers Dolphins.
Great game.
Both
Favorite game
teams
of the week.
played really well, but the Dolphins, Tua, over 400 yards. He's like he's still playing in college. What in the name
That
of
man went.
God was that?
That man went off. Like I was kind of happy for him because he hasn't had a game like that at all in his career, and I always thought he was a good quarterback. He just had unfortunate concussion injuries that literally crushed him.
Yeah.
And for him to have that kind of game in the first week of the season, bravo! I freaking
If he
love it.
stays healthy, I think they're like the contender for that division as of right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely,
And
I
definitely.
think they should be based on this, I think they should be the favorite because the
Yeah.
Bills weren't that impressive this week, and the
You
Jets
know,
just lost Rodgers, and then there's the Patriots. I think they should be the favorites for the division.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I agree.
as much as I like it, LSU fan, I freaking hate Bama. I, Tua was the only Bama quarterback I actually liked. I'm
Yeah,
happy to see him doing so well.
he's a great guy. Like he seems nice and he's played very well. Has a great team spirit and team attitude. Like I really like him.
Yeah. Also Tyreek Hill, on if he keeps with the pace
Oh
he
my
set, if
gosh.
he keeps with the pace he set this week, he
He could
might break
retire today and
3K.
be in the Hall of Fame. Like Tyreek is just so good, unguardable, pretty much.
For real. Like 11 receptions, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Heck,
Holy mackerel.
Jalen Waddle as well, 4 catches for 78 yards. That's nothing to like gloss
Yeah.
over. That's
And
pretty
Yeah.
decent.
he's been like nursing a little injury of his own, Jalen Waddle. So when he's 100%, then it's gonna be even more dangerous.
hmm Like if
The
And
they
Jeff
can,
Wilson's supposed to come back eventually this season.
ooh,
And
man.
Ahmed, the new guy, and then they still got Mostert. Like,
the main
oh,
thing
and then they got Barrios over from the Jets this offseason. They still got Craycraft. Like
Oh yeah.
they got everybody.
They got a pretty stacked offense, so they just need to continue the pace they going, and they'll be for sure favorites in the NFC,
yeah.
not NFC, AFC East.
The
Yeah.
main thing I am noticing here is it's kind of like they're opposites of each other for these teams. The Dolphins had all the passing yards. They lit up the field through the air. However,
hmm
the Chargers, like the Dolphins' leading rusher was Mostert, 10 carries,
Oh yeah.
37 yards, and a touchdown. The Chargers, however, Eckler, 16 carries, 117. I can't see that from here.
Kelly
I
Joshua
think,
was the
Kelly.
next
yeah,
one.
I
Yep.
need freaking glasses, man. 16 carries for 91 and a touchdown. They
Yeah.
they ran
Dominated the
through,
ground game.
and it wasn't terrible for receiving for the Chargers. They're still getting beat, but Allen for 74. Eckler 4 for 47. Just they're kind of opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's,
Justin Herbert did pretty good. One touchdown, 228 yards, and he was 23 of 33, no interceptions.
yeah, he played pretty solid. Like it seemed like the Chargers were very well balanced. They were just on the unfortunate end of losing the game.
Yeah.
So
I think it's worth mentioning that Tua did not get sacked this whole game, even though Teron Armstead was out and didn't play. Like he still just didn't.
yeah,
They still couldn't get to him with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, so
that
that
is
could
true.
be
I
a
forgot
good
about
thing for
that.
their O line.
Yeah. I think that should do it for that game. Let's move on to the next one. Eagles and Patriots. The Eagles don't look as good as I thought.
Yeah, like I was shocked. Like why? I thought the Eagles, after all the offseason pickups and draft picks they've gotten, um, what happened? Like they
I
looked
I
flat. Like
genuinely think this game might have been won by the Patriots. If I'm correct here, I didn't get to actually watch the game, so I had to like go through the highlights for it. But I believe toward the end of the game, the Patriots were trying to make a drive down the field, and what would have been a huge first down for them, that I think would have put them in. I think it would have put them in Eagles territory.
yeah,
Was a catch made by Keishon Butte,
Hmm.
but
yeah,
he
he made a
was
good.
he thought he was still in college and only dragged 1 foot.
Oh yeah, you gotta do the
Ah,
you gotta do the 10 toes uh down challenge thing.
Yep.
If you
I
don't
kind of
got do
hate
the ten
how it's
toes,
different for college and NFL. They should just both be the same with the
If
I
he
whole
got
agree.
that
foot
second
down
foot
thing.
down, I think it would have been uh, a lot closer. I don't know if they would have won, but I think they had a better chance. The Eagles, the offense, we know the Patriots' defense is one of the better ones, but
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
the Eagles' offense seemed like it was struggling a little bit.
And I mean, it's
Yeah, they
week one. And there's a lot of like maybe not receiver wise, but I mean, Miles Sanders is gone. They're still trying to figure out the run game and all that. So maybe that's a factor.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe so.
I
Oh
just think
no, both
the Patriots look a lot better. The Eagles look a little worse. But like we said, week one, kinks to work out.
I was
mhm,
impressed with how Bill O'Brien seems to be doing better with that offense. Mac Jones was the fourth leading passer this week, like 3 touchdowns, I think he had, right?
yes.
Like
Yes.
that's that's
He
pretty good. Like
he
Mac
also
Jones
Hey,
looks pretty
it
good.
was it was like I said in the first episode. If Mac plays better, the Patriots will do better.
Yeah.
yes. Like Mac Jones, he completed 35 passes out of 54 attempts. That's a lot of attempts in one game, if you ask me. Whew.
Yeah,
But
It is,
three
but I
just
mean, yeah.
but 316 yards and 3 touchdowns and only one pick, that's still not a bad day
yeah,
if you ask me, despite all the attempts.
Yeah.
yeah.
Attempts
And
aside, like the numbers kind of speak for themselves in the score. Like they were in there. They had a chance
Yeah,
to win.
definitely.
now let's move on to Rams and Seahawks. Which the only way I know to
Was
describe this is the Seahawks everybody thought we were going to get last year.
yeah.
They
Yep.
they've
They just
regressed,
they looked like garbage.
and
Like
the Rams are looking a lot better than last year. The Rams look like what we should have got last year from them.
right. And they didn't have Cooper Cup either.
Nope, they did
That's
not.
saying
Nope.
something. They had
And Cam
two
Akers
receivers.
didn't lead their running either. It was another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And the Ram
Seahawks, if the Seahawks don't tighten up, then honestly, I think the Cardinals might be able to beat them.
yeah, I agree.
They have
I
They
to
were
mean,
just
yeah,
change some stuff there in that division's ranking.
yeah. Yesterday's Seahawks probably would have lost. I mean, not yesterday's. I keep saying yesterday. Sunday's Seahawks probably would have lost to Sunday's Cardinals.
Yeah.
definitely. Most definitely. And
Uh,
the Rams, they might be in contention with the Niners if they play the way they played on Sunday.
Well, still, we don't know. Like we're saying, week one, we don't know how to compare them to another team that has a better defense than the Seahawks.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I think
But
people are underestimating the Rams a little bit, and myself included. But like, it's hard. Sometimes it's strange to think that the year before last, the Rams won the Super Bowl. So like, they could very well like decide to like be a good team again this
yeah,
year if they wanted to.
Right.
uh,
Honestly, if I'm a Rams fan, it's got to be kind of frustrating with the inconsistency of the Rams because one year they're good, one year they're not. It's like they get hot or cold, hot or cold. Which team are we gonna get this year?
flip the coin,
So
Yeah.
see which one you get.
right, exactly. And if they do well this season, they might be the hot team this year. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
but
That was potentially the game that was like, I know that like the Cowboys obviously like shut out the Giants and the Bengals got kind of curb stomped by the Browns and all that, but this one honestly might have been like the biggest beatdown in my mind because the other games I was kind of like I expected the Giants to lose to the Cowboys. Maybe not that terribly, but I expected that. But for this game, I expected the Seahawks to win, and not only did they not win, they lost like handily.
yep,
yeah. And speaking of the Giants,
yeah, that
the
was
bi-
a
ooh,
massacre.
the
That was
biggest
terrible.
dud of the entire week.
I the Cowboys' defense is what won them this game. The offense didn't really
Definitely.
have to do a whole lot. The Cowboys' defense is a dominant one, and the
Yeah, like that.
Giants. If you don't protect your quarterback, he's not doing anything. And
No.
I have to say he should not have been in there in the fourth quarter, still taking hits. Pull him out of there.
No.
You're paying him all
He,
that
le-
money,
le-
and you're gonna risk him getting hurt when you haven't even scored.
Yeah, like you can't
like,
win. You might as well just take him out for now and cut your losses. Like
like
I
that
know that
man
it's not
had,
like a professional thing to do, but it is what it is.
yeah, that Giants O line allowed 7 sacks in one game. That's the most of any team this
With
week.
T-Mobile for Business,
Like,
our internet.
holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
they were just dog crap. Like, they were
Yeah,
just horrible. I mean, it was just like going outside and looking at trash cans, and those trash cans should probably block better than the Giants O line.
Yeah. I've
Ugh.
seen people like dubbing the Cowboys like a top like 2 or 3 team in the NFL. I think that's a little premature. Like the defense, don't get me wrong, that's like a top 2 defense just based on what we
Definitely.
saw. But we didn't get to see enough of the offense to see what it can do.
I will say though, Tony Pollard of the Cowboys, he looked just perfect with that
yep.
offense. Like
Yeah.
he had he had 14 carries, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like he was meant to be the number one running back of that
I
team. I'm
said it
glad he
last
got
year.
the starting.
I said it last year. He should have been the starter over Zeke. Zeke was clearly the
Past his
lesser of the
prime.
two.
Yeah.
Hmm. But all in
I'm
all,
curious. Go ahead.
I was just all in all, it was just a disaster class for the Giants and a dominant class for the Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
Cowboys
I'm
made a
curious to
statement.
see what the Cowboys like passing game is gonna look like because you do have like good weapons, even though obviously Gallup didn't get more than like 1 or 2 catches, and Brandon Cooks didn't get more than like 1 catch. So I mean,
Yeah.
when they face like, I don't know, not like the 49ers because that's like the top of the pack, but when they face a team that's gonna threaten them more than the Giants, then I guess we'll see like how the team looks.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
Giants just have to do better protecting Daniel Jones. If they play like they were playing Sunday night, they're gonna get killed all year.
oh
Yep.
yeah. And unfortunately, this is the one team I thought would be the dark horse in that division, and they made me look so
Yeah,
bad. Oh,
I
embarrassing.
I don't I don't think they can I don't think the Giants can win the division. I still think they can be a dark horse to make the playoffs though, just because it's the NFC and there's not like a terribly large amount of
I
teams that people expect to make the wild
It could
cards.
just be like we're
Especially
saying
since the
it's week
Seahawks are on
one.
that list too, and they didn't look good.
Could just be like we're
Yeah.
saying it's week one. They got rust to shake off, and they'll get better as the season goes. But for them, at least, there's nowhere to go but up. You can at least score in the other games.
I feel like
Right.
they're gonna have a bounce back week this upcoming week. They play the Cardinals. I feel like they're gonna
Possibly.
do well.
Yeah, they better hope the Cardinals' defense isn't how they played against Washington.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the final game of the week, and the one where the biggest surprise happened. The Bills and Jets, where on the first drive, Aaron Rodgers went down with, I believe it was a
Yeah.
torn Achilles.
He
Yeah,
played for a whopping 75 seconds.
yeah.
75 seconds total
There
on the
goes his
field, and he
season.
was
So
out.
you're gonna deal with Zach Wilson again for another year.
Yeah. Unless you sign someone else.
I don't
but-
think they're going to. I really
I don't think so either.
See, I would say that, but like everything's in place for them to make a deep playoff run, and like I don't like unless they change their tune on Zach Wilson, because the Jets team didn't believe in him last year. So unless they have like new faith in him, then
Yeah.
like are you gonna waste this year and just accept it as a failure?
Who knows? I mean,
Surprisingly,
it's gonna
though,
be
the Jets did play fairly well through the whole game. Their defense performed
yeah,
as you'd expect from last year.
yeah.
Yeah.
They had like what 3 interceptions and 3 interceptions with one fumble. Oh no, 2 fumbles. Excuse me.
I have to
Yeah,
say though, those 3 interceptions were all done by the same guy. Josh Allen hit the same guy 3 times.
yeah. Like I don't know what happened to Josh Allen that game. That's just uncharacteristic of him to
That's
do
the
that.
Madden curse, man.
I mean, to be
Oh
fair
yeah,
though, like last year he was at the top of the interception list too, behind like
true.
Dak. I think he was like top 3 for interceptions last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So like he really it's still game 1, but it's not encouraging to see that he's still throwing all the picks.
Yeah, it's like, what is he like? I don't know if they had a change in offensive coordinator or or quarterbacks coach, but whoever they got as a quarterbacks coach, they'd have to coach him up better than that
Yeah.
because
They
that's just
did last year.
unacceptable.
Last year Brian Daboll was the OC, and then he went to the Giants to be head coach. So
And
Uh,
maybe it's just
uh,
whoever they got to replace him.
yet again, the Bills are suffering from the same thing they have for the past few years: overtime. They go into
oh yeah,
overtime, they get the first possession, they can't finish it, and immediately the game is lost after on the next drive.
yeah. Like Josh Allen career wise is 0-4 in overtime,
Yeah.
and that includes Monday night's game. I'm like, yikes. That's
Yeah,
You
not
saw that return for
encouraging.
the touchdown though?
Oh, the punt return, that was a
Yeah,
thing of beauty.
that was crazy. I've never heard Joe Buck have so much emotion in his voice when he was yelling about that for like the 2 seconds he yelled about it.
hmm
Let's be honest.
And
So we all know he's an Aaron Rodgers fanboy. So when his boy went down, he was probably depressed.
I will
Yeah.
say though, I think they said that the guy who made the return was somebody who was like he tried out for the team just off the street, I think, or something like that. Made the cut.
Made the roster.
Yep.
Well, good for
Yeah.
him.
I will say one last thing about the Jets. Brees Hall, their running back. Holy
Yep.
moly, he looked good.
If he
Like
wasn't
it's
hurt last year, they would have done a lot better.
oh yeah, he probably would have been rookie of the year that year. If I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I don't think the Jets should have signed Dalvin Cook.
Nope.
Like
Me neither.
at the time I was like, "Oh, that's a stacked team." But after seeing Brees Hall, it
You don't
I
even.
forgot how good he looked last year. So like I get
Yeah.
it. If he goes if he goes down, you still have Dalvin Cook, who's a really good back. But like the money you paid for Dalvin Cook, you could have got another guy for cheaper to be behind Brees Hall, because now you're paying Dalvin a bunch of money, but Brees Hall is obviously like coming into his prime, and Dalvin's
Yeah.
maybe like leaving his. So
It's like when Brees Hall heard about Dalvin Cook signing. It's like that Michael Jordan meme where he says, and I took that personally.
Yeah.
So he decided to go off.
Yeah. I mean, like
And
I like that they have Dalvin Cook because they have a really good running back room, but it's just the money aspect. They probably paid him a lot. I don't know how much they paid him.
I don't know either. But yeah, like I think what's really impressive though about Brees Hall, excuse me, is he ran against a really stout Buffalo defense that's known for being a good defense. Like to get 127 yards on 10 carries against that defense, man, you're gonna thrive in
Yeah.
this league for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Technical difficulties yet again.
Yay.
Recorded this and lost the entire predictions section, basically. But just to run through them real quick again. We agreed the Saints should win the game on Monday night against the Panthers.
Agreed.
Yes.
Chris and I are picking the Vikings over the Eagles. I believe, Paulo, you picked the Eagles.
I'm picking the Eagles, yeah.
Packers, Falcons. I said Packers. I don't know about you two.
Packers.
Packers.
Closer game than Packers Bears, but still Packers.
I believe we all said the Bills should bounce back against the Raiders.
Agreed.
Yes.
There's no way they just have another bad game.
Ravens, Bengals. I think we all said it's going to be kind of a toss-up. Chris actually went ahead and picked the Bengals, which I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm picking the
I just-
Ravens just because Chris picked the Bengals.
Okay, I see how it is, Paulo.
I think there's too many unknowns for me to make a prediction on it, but
Yeah,
I would
Jose is split.
I would like the Bengals to win because Joe Burrow, my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Lions, Seahawks. I believe we all picked the Lions because the Seahawks
hands down.
were doo-doo.
Mm-hmm.
Colts,
stunk.
Texans. Like I said before when it didn't record, Will, I'm sorry. I'm picking the Colts.
Same.
You know what? I'll pick the Texans just because y'all picked the Colts.
Oh, here we
Changed
go
my
again.
mind. The first time we recorded this, I said Colts, but I'm picking Texans.
Paulo. There's always that one guy.
The contrarian.
Mm-mm-mm.
Chiefs, Jaguars. I believe Chris and I said Jags.
Yes.
It'll be
Didn't
close.
taking it all.
I think it'll be close,
Yeah.
but I think Jags just because I think they had the better receiving core after this past week.
Yes.
Yeah, the Jags just look too good.
Bears, Bucks. I said the Buccaneers, but if the Bears improve, it could be a toss-up.
And
Me and
said
Chris
the
both
Bears.
said Bears, yeah. Bears bounce back.
Bear down.
Nah, don't you start that. I'm
Nah,
not that big of a
Bears.
Bears fan. Nah, Bears.
Chargers, Titans. That should be the Chargers all day.
All day, yeah.
Should be,
The-
yeah. Even
Giants,
though I think the Titans will probably put up some points.
Giants,
They probably
Cardinals.
will. I
Giants.
got Giants in a close one.
And I picked the Cardinals.
You picked the Cardinals, now who's the contrarian?
I picked the
Oh, come
Cardinals
on.
because I don't think it's enough time for the Giants to work out their kinks. I think they're actually going to, do more, but I think the Cardinals might still win it.
I don't know about that one. I think the Giants will rally and then take down the Cardinals. It won't be a beatdown, but it'll be relatively close.
49ers,
Yeah.
Rams, Niners all day.
Yeah,
Niners.
easily.
Rams do well, but Niners.
Jets, Cowboys. Cowboys just because better quarterback.
Better
Yep.
defense.
Cowboys, yeah.
Commanders, Broncos. I said Commanders.
Yeah, I said Commanders as well.
I think the Commanders, yeah, I'll take Commanders, even though I think it's going to be close, like really close.
Dolphins, Patriots.
Yeah.
It should be the Dolphins. I don't think they're going to score
Dolphins.
as much as they did just because the Patriots have a better defense, but the Dolphins should win.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And Browns, Steelers should be the Browns. I don't think the Steelers improve significantly in that amount of time.
No,
Yeah.
they probably
Still take the Browns.
I think the Steelers will get crushed.
I think it'll be closer, but Browns.
And that takes care of this week's episode of the podcast. We will be back after
Alrighty.
week 2.
Wait,
See
the
you all
song.
next week.
Oh.